Okay, hi everybody. Sorry it's been a while since I've been on. I told you like a month ago that I was going to start a Crochet Basics line, and I am. We're going to start it now. Uh, I meant to start it right after I said I was going to, and then I had to travel for work for a couple of weeks. So no more excuses. I'm back online now, and we're going to start our Crochet Basics video series. And I'm going to start with maybe something different than other people would start with. I'm going to start with actually learning how to read a pattern. So I think that's kind of the most important place to start, because if you don't choose the right pattern, it doesn't matter if you know how to do the stitches, your pattern is not going to turn out right. So I'm going to do a few different videos on stitches, tension, how to hold your yarn, all that kind of good stuff. But I thought I would start with how to read a pattern, how to pick a pattern, how to read a pattern. Because you can see something and go, oh yeah, that's exactly what I want to do, and no, it doesn't work out that way. When I was, I don't know, probably 7, 8 years old, my grandma was a fantastic seamstress, and I told her I wanted to learn how to sew, so she tried to teach me, and she was not a great teacher, and I was not a great student, and long story short, don't learn how to sew by learning how to do Barbie clothes, because Barbie clothes are really hard. In my mind, I said, oh, they're really small, they'll be easy. My grandma said, no, they're not easy, and I said, I don't care, teach me anyway, and it did not go well. So if you don't pick the right thing, it does not work. So later, as an adult, I taught myself to sew, and I started with, and in fact, I still most commonly do A-line skirts with elastic waists. That's the easiest thing to do. That's what I should have started doing when I was 7 years old, and I did not. So I set myself back a lot by not picking the right pattern. So how about I tell you a little bit of background about my crochet experience. So I learned to crochet as an adult from my grandma, my other grandma. She was she was born in the early 20s, but she grew up in the Depression, so she learned how to crochet really out of necessity. There was 9 of them. She was the oldest, and she learned how to crochet because she made socks. They took apart anything they had outgrown or was too ratty or they couldn't use anymore, and she crocheted them into socks. And she told me one time that if she hadn't learned how to crochet and if she hadn't made socks, they wouldn't have had socks. That was why she learned to crochet, and she made socks for her and her 8 siblings. So a little sidebar, if you have an older person in your life who has time and wants to tell you stories, make time for them, because eventually they will be gone. So make time to hear their stories, and whether it's about crochet or woodwork or whatever else they do, or just anything in general, make some time for them, because eventually they will be gone. So hear their stories and learn from them. So that's what I did with my gram. She was in a car accident, and then she was probably over 80 even then. But she was in a car accident and was pretty much immobile. So I would go over in the afternoons and help her do stuff. And she taught me how to crochet. She told me a lot of different stories. She was a Rosie the Riveter during World War II, I guess it is. I don't even know. World War II. She worked in a munitions factory, so she did everything. And we took a lot of time for her to tell me the stories about that. So little sidebar from crochet, but if you have an older person in your life, take time to listen to their stories and learn from them. All right, so back to crochet. So like I said, I learned to crochet as an adult. It's a little bit harder probably than doing it as a little bit younger, but whatever. I'm also left-handed, so there are a lot of videos out there for left-handed crocheters. Let me just tell you, I don't do that. I hold the hook with my right hand. I follow the pattern the right-handed way. I actually have found it to be a little bit easier. I've tried the left-handed way, and it just, maybe it's because I didn't learn that way. I don't know, but I don't feel like, at least for crochet, there's a left or right-handed way to do it. So I use the hook in my right hand, and I crochet the right-handed way. I was going to say the right way, which sounds bad for the left-handed way, but I crochet the right-handed way, and I follow a right-handed pattern even though I'm left-handed. So do whatever works for you, but I have found that left-handed works just fine. Right-handed work just fine for a left-handed person. All right, so I've been crocheting now, I guess, for, I don't know, 15, 16 years. I've made hundreds of projects, hats, scarves, mittens. I made a couple skirts for myself, which I really enjoy wearing. You got to line them because they're a little holey, but they're fun to wear. My favorite thing that I like to do now is more like figures, like the amigurumi figures. I have a bunch of them that I've made, and they always require a pattern. Not always, I guess. I just wrote my own pattern. First time I wrote my own pattern because I had an order for something specific and I couldn't find it. So I just made it myself, and it turned out pretty well, but we'll go over that eventually, writing your own pattern and or freehanding things. But for now, let's look at written patterns and see where you want to go. So the patterns that I picked out to show you are for smaller, more like sculpted kind of projects. They're not scarves, they're not blankets, they're not, the bigger freeform kind of things. They're more patterns that have very specific small instructions. So let's look at the different patterns and see what the different elements are for you to be looking for as a beginner.
All right. So as I promised you, here's some patterns. I'll just zoom in a little bit on this here so you can see the words. So this first thing is a book. I bought this. It is Annie's Attic Crochet called Bling and Things for Dogs. Okay, so these are just little patterns, little things for dogs. They're cute things. My dog right now is too big to wear any of these things, and I don't think she would let me put them on her, but they're cute things. So we want to look at the pattern, right? So here's a nice picture of the pattern. It's always nice to have a picture of what you're looking at. But here's what I wanted to show you. So this is the important part when you're trying to figure out a pattern. So you see it says skill level easy, and then it's got the measurements and all that, which is important, but then it tells you what kind of yarn you need. This little picture here with the 4 where it says medium, that's important. Because if you use the wrong yarn, it's going to be too big or too small. It tells you what size hook you need. Those are the important things. And most professional patterns, especially if you buy it in a book, will have that kind of a thing. So it gives you the special things about the pattern, things that you need to know, which are very nice. Sometimes they'll tell you, this one doesn't, but sometimes if they have a special stitch in them, they'll tell you that special stitch that you need to know. But here's the important part in professional patterns is the size of the yarn and the skill level that they say. So this was a number 2, but still an easy, so that's good. So those are things to look for. The picture is nice. Now, if you don't want to pay for a pattern, there's patterns everywhere, right? You can get a ton of patterns online. But not all patterns, free or paid for, are created equal. So this is a good pattern that I got online. I got it for free, I think. I think this was a free one. The pattern's called Bobble Sheep, and it's by Just Add Crochet. I downloaded it online. I can't remember if I paid for it or not, but either way, she's got good notes. She's got a good gauge section, and she's got the what you'll need. So it's got the, the size hook that you'll need. She doesn't have a size to the yarn. It just said worsted weight, which, is just a normal weight thing. And then the stuffing. But then she's got an abbreviation section, which is important in a pattern that someone has written up that's not a professional pattern. It's just one that someone has written, because people use different terminology for different things. So just make sure, or not make sure, but make sure it has an abbreviation section. If it doesn't, and you're just kind of winging it, make sure you write down what you did for each thing. So if this section wasn't here, and you just saw SS, her thing says slip stitch. But if you didn't know that, and you were just going along and you did it as, whatever, hopefully you did it as a slip stitch, but if you didn't know and you just did a basic thing, then make sure you wrote down what it was so that you can do it every time. And then she has like go back to body instructions and finish. So this is a good online pattern. She's got good instructions in here. There are pictures. Unfortunately, when I downloaded it or printed it, I don't know, it didn't print the pictures. So, you know, I just kind of winged it from there. But this is a good one. So you want to look for a section on things that you'll need and an abbreviation section in a pattern that you download. So this is another pattern that I downloaded online for free from Pinterest. And see, it's adorable. The little doll that it makes is adorable. The pattern itself is a little questionable. I would not say this is a beginner pattern because it's not real defined. Like for the head and body to start, it just says 6X. So 6X, she's got a little abbreviation section here. X is single crochet, but it doesn't say that you're doing it in a round. It doesn't say, you know, magic circle 6. So it's a little more, I think it's more in an advanced pattern. She makes an adorable doll, something that you'd want to make probably, something that I have made a few times now. But you can see I've had to put my own notations on the pattern because the pattern's a little bit harder to read. So just because the thing is adorable and it's definitely something you want to make, the pattern may not be great for you as a beginner. You may need to look for a similar pattern to make a similar thing, one that's a little more accessible for you to use. So here's my last. So there are chart patterns. These are all written patterns that I've showed you so far. There are chart patterns. Honestly, I don't know how to use them. I've tried to work off of chart patterns before. I find them very difficult and very confusing. Some people love them and that's all they want to use. Me, not so much. So I'm not even going to show you one. If you want to see an example of a chart pattern and how to use it, find a different YouTube of how to do it because I do not know. This is a graph pattern. So this is one that I used to make actually an emblem for my daughter's Halloween costume a couple years ago. But it's really self-explanatory, so you can do it however you like. I do these as singles. So I just made the yellow and black parts. I didn't make the white. If you're making a blanket and you want it to be square, you could make the whites too, but really you just count each square as a stitch. If you want it to be bigger, you can count each square as 2 stitches or, you know, however you want to do it. But I just did each square here was a single stitch. So I had, what, 7 yellow across, and then 10 yellow or 11 yellow across, whatever it is. And then when you get to the different color, you just change colors. This is a pretty simple example of a graph. I've done much more complex ones. I made one for my dad that was the AMC, which is American Motors Corporation for you young folks who do not know what it is, because it is no longer in business. But AMC was American Motors Corporation. They made cars a long time ago. I think they ceased production in like the 80s. But my dad's an AMC car collector, so I made him their red, white, and blue flag with the AMC symbol on it. It was much more complex than this. But this is a very simple version of a chart, and really you just count across. You go this way, flip it and go that way, flip it and go that way, and then just add in your colors all the way across. Someday I'll show you how to actually do it, because getting the ends and the color changes can be a little difficult, but that is a graph pattern, not a chart pattern, a graph pattern. So that's my overview of patterns. Hopefully it gives you a good place to start. So when you have gone through some patterns, either online or in a book or whatever it is, when you've picked one that says beginner or easy, has the charts or has the abbreviations and everything in it that you want, tune back into my next video, which hopefully will not take me this long to get done, but tune back into my next video and we'll start going over different stitches and different tensions and different ways to hold your hook so you get everything right. So hopefully this is a good place for you to start. Now go out and find a good pattern and come back to me pretty soon and we will get started on stitches. Have a great rest of your day.